Right. Let's check if everything is working. Is it working? Why is it not working? Let's see if right, this is quite annoying. Why is it not working exactly? Right, so it is not working. I'm going to stop streaming. Let's go. It's switching, it's working, it's working. Right. Is it working? Accept connection. It seems like it's working. Right. Bit of a issue there with my connection and stuff. So, right. Basically, in this video, you can watch me struggle again with context engineering, vibe coding, whichever way you want to name it. And what I'm doing here is building an amazing MCP tool that can do basically task management with epics and project capability. So basically like your project brains for context engineering. And it's worth like billions of millions of dollars. So yeah, I'm an entrepreneur that builds amazing product. I'm a little bit sarcastic, but never mind. So what I'm doing here is creating a pull request quickly and merging everything into the main branch, and I will explain in a second what I am going to do. Well, there's a lot of tasks. Let's switch to the main. Right, so code, branches, we got 5 branches, 69. Okay. All right, I'm going to refresh this. Yes, fine. I'm going to pull requests, no pull requests. Filter. Let's go in again to branches. Right, so I'm going to click delete, delete, and open it up again. Clean up my delete. Delete everything, all the branches, clean up my okay, so we've got everything here. We just need to, last thing, fetch prune, make sure everything is clean, nice and tidy. I will go in and quickly see what we've got in here, and it seems like everything is working. Now, so the last video I basically created like a workflow that can build MCP tools and register them as an MCP tool. So yeah, a little bit confusing, but here you go. So I'm going to quickly just go through it again. Idea is that we're going to have set of base tools that create things like tasks, projects, epics, and manage those. So basically update them, delete them, list them if they need to, and everything else. But then, you know, this will be packaged as create object, and object might be any of those. So at the moment, again, we've got task, epic, project, and then we've got rules. Now, but we want to have individual workflows as well that will utilize those. So because it's easier for the MCP agent or the agent that is using the tool to understand that, oh, if I need to create task rather than call create object, I want to create task, then I want to have workflow that is to create task. That workflow will be designed in here. So we're going to have a start node, and then we're going to have tool call, and the tool call will be basically create create object. And then from here we will select what type of object and everything else. So this is what we're going to focus on now. Basically we've got like a skeleton GUI using React flows, and we want to build on that to make it more usable. Now I've got some tools in my MCP server already. So basically if I look at the MCP location, so we've got working tools that we've been using to basically create all these projects. Basically we use the tools and the UI to basically manage and create and improve this project along the way. So as you can see over here, we've got epics, we've got project here, project flows, which is matching basically the name of the open source MCP project that we creating, and that project flows can create projects, can create epics and tasks underneath those epics, as well as things like rules. Now this can give you basically ability to use your current tool of choice, like let's say me using Claude Code or Windsurf or Codex, to connect that MCP server and then, you know, either create tools, prepare for the work, or execute those tools and then track the progress of your project. So it's a neat tool to help you to do context engineering, which is, you know, very, very important and in demand these days. And then basically another improvement that is ability to using the workflows like this. So we have already some workflows that are hard-coded in here in the code. The idea is to be able to, you know, to create those workflows using the simple tools and everything else using the GUID instead of hard coding them in the code. So that will give the user, you know, not so much technical user, but someone who can just, you know, go in with an idea that, oh, I want to be able to, I don't know, execute a task, and when I execute the task, I want these specific steps to be completed. So currently we already have, let's say, execute task that I just mentioned, and if I look at the execute task, it will do like a lot of different steps. So let's go to tools, and then we've got task tools. Actually, we need to go to workflows. So if we can see the task in here. We've got template ID, we passing over, and then next level type is task, next level, okay. So got templates here, and then we selecting what it is. This is next level, so it's not necessarily that. Epic. Okay, so we've got tasks, which is number one, target template. We've got projects, and at 3, which is not following the kind of number hierarchy, because projects were created before epics. At 3, we've got epics. And then we've got some instructions in here. So basically, we've got a workflow here to execute task, handle execute task. So if we look at that workflow, you will see that there's a bunch of different steps, like step 2, starting from step 1. So load the task context into the memory. So basically requesting, get object, use the tool get object to load the task. Then we have basically moved the task to doing. So as we progressing, on our board, and we know it's executing stuff, we want the stage to be doing now, not draft. Then we have enforce branch validation. So it will look at, what branch we're in. If we not having branch, it will create the branch, and then it will load the hierarchy. Basically, it will go and see, we have an epic project. So for context, it will also load the content of the epic, content of the project, and then it will go through other steps. So imagine now everything in here is hard-coded. Anyone who wants to change it, although it's open source, they would have to come in, they would have to know TypeScript or whatever, I think it's TypeScript written in, and then they would need to be able to adjust all that. So rather than doing that, what I'm planning to do is have a workflow that can create those chains, those steps, by basically connecting different nodes, which is more user-friendly. So now, as I kind of went through like POC yesterday and I got to that stage, now the next step is basically to start making it like proper thing. So I've already kind of went through hours on trying to figure out what is the best approach, and eventually I went, and after a few trial and errors, I went kind of to settle on one approach, with the help obviously of AI, where I asked to investigate what are the best steps to achieve that, and I asked it to create a small plan and then create tasks to execute it, which it did. So as you can see, we are using Project Flow MCP, using Cascade Windsurf. It created for me 4 different tasks. I asked it to put it under Epic that I used yesterday, basically to create everything. We could draft. Okay, I lost count for 1 second. So as you can see, we've got, I'm actually going to remove the filter of completed to show you, what we have in here, which is our 4 tasks that, as you can see, were created by the project flows. And project flows is available in it's licensed under MIT, so anyone can literally go in and go to project flows or Mariusz rep project flows GitHub repository, and you can literally download, clone your repository. You can run it on Docker. It should work. If not, you can run it as you can run it as an npm run, as I do for my development. But yeah, never mind. So let's crack on with actually executing the task. So I'm gonna go in and just copy. As you can see, just click the copy button. It just copied quick execute task 1081. Now I'm going to actually clean the open new session of Claude, and right, the execute task, as you've seen over there, it will create new branch, but because actually, let's keep it as that. I'm just going to let it create the branch and carry on working. Let me make this a little bit bigger and just move on to here. Oh, there you go. So see, the Claude is already executing, so it's executing execute task as I requested. I provided the task that I want to execute, so it went off and created the branch for me, and as well as it went to move the stage of that task to doing. So, and now it's executing everything. So if we look at the first task, basically it's focusing on interesting, because server tools, that is files. Well, it's actually telling porkies over there, which I kind of don't like, but fine. Let's have a look. Let's have a look what plan it came up with first. So I actually reviewed basically what enhanced the create object MCP tool within properties parameters is, and it looks like it kind of went to wrong file, because obviously I know these files for some time, so I can see straight away it's not going to the right file. It kind of imagines some other file. But if we go back to Claude, which actually went off and decided to plan, implementation plan, okay, create handler, right, it's all good. It actually planned Well, so update tool schema. Keep existing. Right, so I kind of don't want button. Do not need backwards compatibility. So I just want to make sure that, right, I'm not using currently that tool for anything else, so I don't really need the backwards compatibility. I noticed that it's quite often the case that they try to preserve that. Most of the AI tools, they try to preserve that, which on one hand it's good if it's like a production code and everything goes, and then if it makes sense, you know, keep it, but and it's kind of safer way. So yeah, but I don't need to keep the backwards compatibility. I notice the Claude code likes to do that, but you know, it makes the code bloated, and then it kind of should be more of a question rather than statement. And then, you know, it's funny how they kind of want to make the code backwards compatible, but then it quite often will go and just delete my Postgres Docker database and replace it with new without data, which seems like, oh, I can just do that, don't worry about your data, but you know, code needs to be backwards compatible. A little bit of a rant here at the AI, but never mind. Yes, template stage related. Yeah, that makes sense. So we keep all that. Yes. Okay, backwards compatible maintain. So, oh yes, so maybe that is actually the fault that is in that was included in the task itself. That's why it probably tried to follow it. Nice. Okay, so I think we have everything covered. Yes. Fine. Right, so let's see, you know, what it's going to do. In the meantime, I am actually going to go and have a look at this guy and see, make sure implement. Yes, that is correct. And rule options is selected. Should dynamically fetch render input fields for all properties of that template using list properties. That is correct. Workflow nodes. Let's have a look at actually. Right. Let's confirm. Right, this is MCP, this is UI, and we want to confirm if in source components workflows we've got nodes. Yes, we've got our nodes in here. This is good. Right, project Docker Compose. We don't really want to do number TypeScript. Right, no, we don't want to do that. I will build dev MCP. So let's go and clear this mess, run npm run to see all that. I can go now. Right, I can go now to the UI. The UI has option to display all the all the tools. So if we change create object, it will reflect in here. So yes, that's nice. We've got template, we've got properties. Fine, this is nice. So I got stage. Right, so related. So it looks like it's done this correctly. I'm not going to execute it, but imagine it's going to work fine. But actually, I can create object template. I'm not going to include anything. I will put this into draft, or actually, I will put it into backlog. So we using task, create task, and then we're not relating it to anything. So success is true. Create a task without any title, basically anything. So if I go to my tasks, I've got untitled task. Oh, interesting. Right. This is really interesting. So we don't want create task, we want create object. So we did a list and a related. So let's do this. We're not relating it to anything. We put it in the backlog. We use one and okay. Error. Right, but I don't want to. Okay, fine. So let's just not do anything. Task ID template related is empty. Parent ID is null. It's in a draft, but I'll put it in the backlog. Well, that's probably needs fixing. Task. Right. So I am going to right. So we've got title, we've got description. I go into here and okay, we've got untitled and yes, that is what we wanted, 86. It's interesting that it put the other one somewhere else. But it kind of does what we want it to do. Right. Actually, I can delete this guy. Interesting why you put it in here. Now, so we've got that sorted. Let's remove the completed. So we've got it in doing. We're going to put it into review now. Generate. So now we've got, oh well, yes, it would put in the review, but we put it manually. Now we can create the node object. Now it's, you know, it's smaller tasks that basically You might kind of think, you know, why do you break it down into smaller tasks and all that? But trust me, the size of the, you know, of the project matters. And then, you know, too big task sometimes is too big, too many big problems. So maybe we could go ahead and do it, you know, in one go, probably entire request, as you see over here. So basically the approach, node structure, but I think it's a little bit too much to ask from Claude. And actually breaking it down into few tasks, few requests in one session makes it, you know, better. So I'm still keeping one session, still keeping the same context. It's just, you know, step by step working with Claude. So new node. Let's have a look at what sort of plan it came up with. Icon and label. Okay, so it's basically listing what it is, create new node in the same place as other nodes are. List templates. Yes, we want to basically do that. Dynamic property fields. Yes, then we basically do that. We do this. That's the calls, the MCP tool calls. Makes, you know, a lot of sense. Okay, fine. Right, fine, everything looks good, new. It all makes sense. Right, let's go ahead and let's do fine for the feedback and let's implement it. Implement. I like actually, you know, the fact that it plans now automatically before doing anything, Claude, and then it stops and asks for confirmation. Now, this is something definitely I want to implement within the workflows. Currently they create, so execute, let's say, execute is fine, but then I've got a workflow to create and break down, let's say, projects into epics, where we have basically proposed the epics and then, you know, implement it. But then I want to include the human in the loop interaction in more places, because it's quite often vital. And, you know, sometimes I'm lazy. I ask it to create the tasks and basically don't review them, just trust it. Quite often I've found that, you know, either there's more work needs to be done on the, you know, on the prompt engineering side than already has been done. So I need to definitely make some improvements, but quite often it's basically me just being lazy and not reading, not adjusting things and not explaining things properly. So no matter how good of tool there is, no matter how good tool there is, and how much it can help you. There still will be moments where you will be failing providing the right information or reviewing and doing the right thing. So it's definitely a good tool, project flows, that can help you managing the project and interaction with improves the interaction with the agents like Claude Code or Codex CLI or WinCef, but there still needs to be human in the loop. If you care about how the project looks and everything else, you will need to influence it in many ways. If you want to make sure that the code and everything else is working a specific way. And trust me, I've been looking at some of the code, and there's a lot of duplication, there's a lot of hard coding that could potentially be removed. And even in this project now, I've been going back and forth and trying to review some code and ask it consistently to apply it in a different way. But it's two steps forward, one step back, which makes it quite interesting. Right, so workflow, let's have a look at call tool, create object. We've got create object tool, and in here we can select task. So it created that nicely. So I've got title, description. This is actually not bad. It went off and it loaded basically everything in there. This kind of makes sense in a way, but in a way it doesn't. So we selected, we want the task. Right, so, and actually let's save this and see. Right, create product. I'm kind of doubting if I understand it right, but let's save this. Okay. So we selected task. Oh, session limit reached. Well, that is not good, but fine. That is interesting. Where do I go from here? So first of all, I've got start, we've got this. I'm just going to save it. I don't need basically the input parameters for now. I can select my task. Right, so let's have a look at what do we have in here. So we've got updated, yeah, session limit. Fine, so we completed the task and we reached the session limit. Now, this kind of makes sense. What it did, let's save that again. I'm just going to quickly go into the database and run it. Start. Okay. It didn't save the step, so the first thing I will need to do is go in to see the task and make sure all is working. Obviously it's not looking too good, but it kind of did so far what we asked it to do. So we've got that in review and that in review. What is the next step? Okay, so maybe server tools. I mean this is not this is not even a file, so I'm just going to remove it. Solution. Right, fine. Let's save that and execute it. So okay, let's first run it. Right. Let's have a look at the workflow again. Not. Oh no. Why didn't? Oh yeah, it didn't even save it. So I've got analysis, project is just a description. Right, so hmm. Hmm. What are you? So we don't want add workflow execution. Skip to. Right. Um, let's go back and see what it's trying to do. I'm not reading it correctly again. So it added to the palette already. So I can actually remove this. Delete. Right. So right. So let's go back to 82. Literally go in, git vet prune, delete, free. Right, so I want you to investigate and figure out why and how we can make sure that the node create object is being correctly saved as a workflow inside the table. So basically we want to make sure that anything to do, any node, new node we create, or current nodes like create object, is being written into the table and later recreated as a in the entire workflow. So now we also want to make sure that we also want to make sure that we can tick, like when we select now the task and we've got all the properties in there listed, I want to make sure that I can select property, remove property, and I have a way of saying like populate dynamically, so the agent will populate, or I can put in like a fixed value myself. So I can either type in the value, or I can basically leave it as dynamic content. So if that would be left as a dynamic content, when I execute that workflow, I would imagine that it will work exactly as create task tool. So if I would go in and select create object and I select task, I want it to work basically the same as create task tool. Right, figure all this out and create tasks within Epic 1059 or 1059 to implement this change. Right, working with AI is quite difficult. Right, so task, what do we have? We've got right, so investigated, now template properties. Right, so why? What did you do? Right, so right. Right, let's basically stop this guy. Okay, npm dev. Let's go back and let's go to objects. Yeah. What the fuck? What the fuck? What is like the what the actual fuck?